And we are back with more of my interview with Bill Gates. Let me ask you what you think about the state of the global economy, and particularly the U.S. economy. Ken Rogoff, the great Harvard economist who I spent some time talking to, says that to him the worst thing about our U.S. current economic policy is it's all self-inflicted and voluntary. That in the past we made mistakes, but they were during a big crisis, a great recession, or Nixon facing the problem of the dollar not being able to be converted to gold, or even Smoot-Hawley was after the financial crash of '29, after the Great Recession, trying to figure out what to do. These tariffs we've just imposed on ourselves, how damaging do you think it is?
Well, the big concern I have is we've created a lot of uncertainty. If you're going to build a new factory, you need to understand the policies for the next 20 years, not just the next 2 days or even 4 years. And so the notion of, okay, what is the structure, particularly in a time of AI where the labor substitution, both white collar and blue collar, is going to start to change the economy. I think it's a bad time to interject so much uncertainty. This is not a agreed set of things or a carefully discussed set of things. What's going to happen with pharmaceuticals or electronics? I open the paper every day wondering. So I do worry that uncertainty means that investments don't take place.
How worried are you about the future of the U.S. economy?
I think there's a lot of resilience in the U.S. economy. We've seen even with this uncertainty, the jobs numbers have not been that bad. I'm not an expert on that. I mean, another 1 or 2% of growth. For me, it's about the cutting edge and saying, okay, can the U.S. Stay in the lead? And I do think being friendly to other countries, so they want to, they don't think we're going to withdraw our technology in some sudden way. That's important. And then being an exemplar of, briefly there were gigantic tariffs on very poor African countries, and I don't see what the benefit of that would have been. I'm particularly focused on our role in lifting up those in greatest need, and the potential tariffs would have been particularly bad for these poor countries.
Do you think the tech bans on China work, or do they make the Chinese more determined to come up with their own local versions, as with DeepSeek, as with Huawei with the Ascend chip? I mean, are the bans having in a weird way the opposite effect?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have forced the Chinese in terms of chip manufacturing and everything to go full speed ahead. Basically, it's very hard in the world we live in with open source software and everything. The Chinese are not going to get substantially ahead of us, and we're not going to get substantially ahead of the Chinese. The AI technologies will be available to the world, and people can build on those in their own way. The notion that it was going to be super unique to us, we made clear to them that they needed to make their own chips, and they're making great progress on doing that.
All right, Bill Gates, always a pleasure.
Thank you.